Good morning and a very, very warm welcome to Barcelona and the Circuit to Catalunya for the penultimate qualifying of the International GT Open season. And this promises to be a wonderful weekend of action here to bring the curtain down on what's been a really thrilling season in the championship. All three titles are still up for grabs this weekend. The overall championship, the Pro-Am championship and the Am championship. And the first man fittingly onto the track for this qualifying session is the overall championship leader, the Danish driver Michael Mack, at the wheel of the Luzic Racing Ferrari that he shares this weekend with Alessandro Qualy. And it is the slenderest of advantages that Mack has coming into the weekend. He's just 3 points up on the Teo Martin Motorsport pairing of Fran Rueda and Andres Saravia, and it really is going to be a shootout between the pair of them. However, if things don't go their way, then it does open the door to Giovanni Venturini and Jerome Mull in the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini to come through and challenge for the crown. They are still mathematically in with a shot of taking the title over the course of the next couple of days. In the Pro-Am Championship, it's Miguel Ramos and Fabrizio Cristani in the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan who lead the point standings, and they, once you factor in dropped scores, are 8 points clear of Tom Onslow Cole and Valentin Pierberg in the SPS Automotive Mercedes. But as is often the way in this final race of the season, we have a few newcomers on the grid, including the car that you can just see there, the DriveX Mercedes. Christian Hahn making the step up from the Euro Formula Open, and he is partnered this weekend with by the DTM star Lucas Oyer. So very strong driver pairing, one of several wild cards that have come into the field as well. We've got the Olymp Racing Audis returning to the championship this weekend. We've got the Lechner Racing Mercedes back out to play as well. We have got the Portiero Motorsport Mercedes and also the Winwood Racing HTP Motorsport Mercedes joining the grid as well. So just a slight snatch of the brakes there into turn one for Michael Mack. So he looks to slow the Ferrari down, and track conditions treacherous this morning. It started out as a wet track when the track went live about 2 hours ago at 9 o'clock. It has dried out since then, but is still very, very slippery. And we've seen more than a handful of drivers being caught out in some of the other qualifying sessions. But they have 30 minutes to play with. They have got their allotted sets of Michelin tyres to play with and use over the weekend as well. And so whilst this qualifying session is important, teams in the title fight are also playing the long game as well. They are looking at what today's race is going to bring, what tomorrow's qualifying is going to bring, and what tomorrow's race is going to bring, as Michael Mack has a little bit of a moment as he climbs out of turn 8 into turn 9. In pursuit of Tom Onslow Cole, I think, well, he's in pursuit one of the Mercedes, possibly sporting new Mercedes. We're in car with Michael Mack now into that downhill braking zone into turn 10. It's Manuel da Costa who he pursues in the sporting new Mercedes. And Mack just working the wheel of the Luzic Racing Ferrari, and the first lap of any pace of the session being posted by the SPS Automotive Mercedes of Tom Onslow Cole, a 1 minute 45.863 as Michael Mack peels into the pit lane. And we've got a very limited number of drivers who have decided to venture out in the early stage of the session, perhaps not unsurprisingly, as it's a little bit slippery out there. Here is Onslow Cole, though, who continues to press on, and Onslow Cole, Valentin Pierberg, they're 8 points drift of Cristani and Ramos in the Pro-Am Championship. But what is really interesting is that if it were to finish as a tie, Cristani and Ramos, they've been in the points in every single race this year in the Pro-Am Championship, but they haven't won one. Pierberg and Onslow Cole have won several, and therefore, on countback, if it were looking like we're going to get an equal point situation, it really does swing back in favour of the Mercedes pairing. Meanwhile, Toby Sowry has gone slightly quicker on at 45.143 in one of the brace of the Dico Lazarus Lamborghini Huracans. Is across the line now comes Onslow Cole, improves his time a little bit, but doesn't improve from second in the session. Lovely shot there of the sparks being kicked up as the base of the car just grinds off the surface of the circuit. Onslow Cole powers his way uphill through turns 2 and 3. On towards turn 4, as Mateusz Dzowski goes third in one of the Olymp Racing Audis. Indy Donche then up into 4th position in the Winwood Racing HTB Motorsport Mercedes that he shares with Russell Ward. As Fabrizio Cristani now goes fastest in the session, a 1:44.516. Not getting too excited about the times just yet because we've got a 32-car entry for this weekend. We have seen laps completed by fewer than half of those runners. So here is Cristani, car that he shares with Miguel Ramos, both drivers outright champions in the recent past in the International GT Open. Ramos in 2015, Cristani in 2016, and they are looking to claim the Pro-Am crown this weekend. Thunderous Lamborghini powers uphill out of turn 8 into turn 9. Got a yellow flag over at turn 11. It's one of the Teo Marti Motorsport BMWs that's got into a little bit of trouble on the section of the circuit that they're approaching now. BMW, by the way, has got back underway. I think it was just a quick spin. But what it means is that Cristani doesn't really have much of a window to improve on this lap either. Indeed, Cristani backs well out of it, allows one of the Luzit Racing Ferraris to power past him. It's also going to allow Christian Hahn to slip past Drovex Mercedes. Now here is Andres Saravia. He and Fran Rueda then second in the standings, just 3 points adrift of Mikel Mack. And for Fran Rueda, last year it was second place in the International GT Open in the Teo Marti Motorsport BMW. Can he go one better this year? It's been 3 victories so far this year for the youthful pairing. And they always seem very, very adept at managing their weekend in the Teo Marti Motorsport squad. Consolidating for points when it looks like events are going to go against them, but really being able to fight for wins when everything pans out in their favour. So as we hit the 1/3 point of the session, it is Jerome Mull who just goes quickest in the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracan. So Mull to the top of the times, 1:44.226. Cristani second, Mateusz Dzowski third, Toby Sowry's fourth, Indy Donche fifth, Rick Breukers is 6th, 7th is Tom Onslow Cole, 8th is Dominic Schwager, 9th Adrian Zaug, who's alongside Alberto Di Folco in the Target Racing Lamborghini this weekend, and then 10th is Andres Saravia. Onslow Cole arrives into turn 1. That last lap was a slight improvement for Onslow Cole. The top 10 cars, by the way, all separated by a second, so it's very, very evenly bunched already at this stage of the session. Here's what the top 24 look like. More to come, of course, beyond that. As Rick Breukers now goes quickest, another of the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracans. Donche up to third. Shuffles Cristani down to fourth. Now, we've not really talked particularly about the AM class, except to say that Giulio Borlenghi and Andrei Lewandowski, currently 28th overall in Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan, pretty much got that title sewn up barring an absolute disaster for them, which would allow Marcio Basso the chance to come through and challenge. Making a welcome return, actually, to the International GT Open this weekend. There he is in 27th place. It was, anyway, is Phil Keane. He's just gone up to 17th. And Keane in the Vincenzo Spiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan alongside Kang Ling this weekend. Keane, who was a partner of Sean Balfe, of course, in the championship over the past couple of years. Very, very quick at the wheel of pretty much anything you put him into, but particularly Lamborghini Huracans, based on his exploits in the British GT Championship. So here then is Aboriginal pole sitter Rick Broikers, car that he shares with Riccardo Agostini. And this is where, if you're the Imperiale Racing team, you'd like the checker flag for the session to come out right now. Having locked out the front row of the grid, as Inde Donche then accelerates through in the Winwood Racing Mercedes. And is this going to be an improved time? No, it's not, but he remains in third position. The reptilian livery of the car as he breaks down into turn one. That's a spin for Mario Plasciuta, and the Lechner Racing Mercedes that he shares with the extremely rapid Thomas Jaeger. Plasciuta should rejoin from there after that moment. There's Dominic Schwager at the wheel of one of the the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris, being pursued by Damiano Fioravanti in the Ombra Racing Lamborghini. Now, Fioravanti this weekend is partnered by Andrea Rizzoli. Oh, and a spin right in front of him from Mario Plasciuta. Well avoided for Fioravanti, who's currently 6th in the times. He was on for a very good lap on that occasion, fastest of anybody through the first sector. See whether or not the errant Mercedes has delayed him a little bit as he picks his way through the final couple of turns, and he decides to peel into the pit lane. Also returning to championship this weekend is the Senkia Motorsport BMW, Richard Gonda, partnered by Mikkel Jensen. We've got more cars in trouble. Oh, that's a big moment. The RS Racing Ferrari of Andrea Montermini crunching into the tyre wall, and that is a great pity. Montermini and Daniele Diamato, they've had victories this year, but that Ferrari is beached and damaged and has brought out a red flag to bring a temporary halt to the session at the halfway point. See if we can get another look at that incident in a moment, because uncharacteristically, that sort of error from Andrea Montermini, you just wonder if something may have gone wrong on the car. It's a tapestry of body language, isn't it? The RS Motorsport, RS Racing pit box as Mikkel Mack peels into the pits. This isn't going to be the quickest of recoveries, I'd venture. Given the velocity with which the Ferrari impacted with the tyres, looks like there may well have been a fair amount of damage. It's going to require a fairly ginger recovery. So it is Rick Broikers, who is currently quickest in the session, from Jerome Mull. Di Donche in third, Riccio Grastani fourth, Mateusz Lizowski's fifth, Damiano Fioravanti in sixth, Mikkel Mack seventh, Toby Sari in eighth, Andres Saravia ninth, Bradley Ellis in 10th, Andrea Montermini was 11th, Alan Kader in 12th, ahead of Tom Onslow-Cole, Dominic Schwager, Christian Harm, Adrian Zaug, Phil Keane in 17th from David Perel, Lorenzo Beirao de Viega in 19th, Marco Ciocci completes the top 20, ahead of Richard Gonda, Alex West, Chiatong Liang, and Stefano Constantini, currently the AM class pole sitter, and Constantini in 24th overall. The car that he shares with Christoph Lenz this weekend. So the championship protagonists 7th and 9th, the midway point of the session. field steadily filtering into the pit lane. Recovery work will be undertaken out on the far side of the circuit. The last couple of cars peel into the pits, which means that the teams really can get to work, doing what they need to. So the pit lane, a buzz of activity. Now, what impact will this have on people's various strategies for the session, as the RS Racing Ferrari terminally has been pulled onto the circuit, and the rear of the car, well, we'll see time what they're. Now here's another look at it, and the car just snaps away from under braking and then veers left into the tyre wall. It's the front left corner which took two big impacts. That's where the bulk of the damage is. And the team talking to Montermini over the radio, and was able to at least initially drive away from the incident, and it was then really tried to pick his way through the gravel trap that again the car just pulled away from him to a halt, beached, and he's now up and running, limping back round towards the pits. And the hope of that is that the damage is more cosmetic than anything too severe to the internals of the car, but that is a fair amount of smoke as the bodywork rubs against the front tyre. I think also the front left suspension is possibly pointing at an angle which was not originally intended when it was manufactured in Maranello. So a brief pause in the action for the spectators, and the car park's actually filling up. Need to fill up really quite early this morning with people coming to enjoy the season finale of the International GT Open. So here is the Qualy Borlenghi, Andrzej Lewandowski AM class leading car, and it's Lewandowski, Polish driver, who will qualifying starting today's race. There towards the bottom half of the field, Mario Plasciuta, Letna Racing Mercedes, having had a session of adventures, it is fairly safe to say. He and Thomas Jaeger. Well, the session goes green, so Montermini has been able to recover the car off the track safely. The green flag is waved, the clock starts ticking down once more. So the car of Andres Saravia, though, sitting fairly relaxed in the pit lane at the moment. Saravia apparently in conversation over the radio, as it is Jiatong Liang who leads the charge down out of the pits and out onto the circuit. He is pursued by Mario Plasciuta. They've still got half of the session to go, and there are lots of quick drivers who we hadn't seen the best of yet, like Marco Ciocci, Phil Keane, David Perel, Adrian Zout. They're all down 16th through to 20th. Richard Gondrin 21st. These are all cars and drivers that could really feature for pole position and challenge for victory later on. Bradley Ellis emerges in the Optima Motorsport Audi. He and Ollie Wilkinson, having had a very successful 2018 campaign so far, when we've seen them, they have been bang on the pace. And Ellis, 10th position at the point at which the red flag came out. He'll be aiming to improve on that, as Lewandowski has a little bit of a moment over at turn one. Schwager works around him, so does Phil Keane in the sister VSR Lamborghini. And also out of the pits, Alexander West in the Pro-Am, entering the Lusit Racing team. And Zubair out of Jaeger, and the trio of Teo Marti Motorsport BMWs. And there is a glimpse of the Portiero Motorsport Mercedes. Philip Deans is the pilot for this session. So he picks his way uphill. Now the real challenge for some of the teams, of course, is that red flag, it effectively puts everybody onto an outlap, and those that were flying at a given moment, as Alain Cadet alongside Marcello Haag, DriveX Mercedes. Of course, we all send our very, very best wishes to Alan Hellmeister, who was injured in that accident at the checkered flag in Monza a couple of weeks ago, and we hope to see Alan back on the grid with us as soon as possible. Lots of good wishes heading his way from the paddock in Barcelona this weekend. So Damiano Fioravanti currently 6th in the session. The Ombre Racing Lamborghini's always been there or thereabouts this year. Fioravanti initially starting the season alongside Fernando Reis until Reis decided to call time on his campaign at the mid-year point. This weekend, he and Andrea Rizzoli making a potentially very strong partnership. Fioravanti just jumps on the brakes, moves down through the gears into turn 10. Now here is Mateusz Lazowski at the wheel of one of the two Olymp Racing Audis. And because we saw that car earlier in the year, it's not a points blocking car, so that is very important to consider as the races unfold, because some of the teams making a reappearance for a final outing of 2018, we saw them already this year, they are eligible for points, and that then starts to potentially have a little bit of an impact once we look towards the championship situation. Meanwhile, Phil Keane back into the pits. A bit of inspection work going on as we catch a glimpse of the Senkia Motorsport BMW, the Slovakian Richard Gonda at the wheel for this session. Gonda pursuing one of the Target Racing Lamborghinis. It's a car that we saw in Spa-Francorchamps. It was absolutely spectacular. And it is Stefano Constantini who he pursues. So Rick Breukers all the while, though, remains the driver in pole position from Jerome Mull, and Mull currently remains in the pit lane. Damiano Fioravanti has set the fastest first sector of anybody through the first third of the lap, coming to the end of the second sector now, and Fioravanti is well up again. So this could be a good lap here for the Italian, one that might knock the Imperiale Racing run Huracan off pole position. He's just got a couple more corners to go here, Damiano Fioravanti. Also on a good lap as well is the Olymp Racing Audi of Mateusz Lazowski. It's Fioravanti who is going to take the checker flag at the, well, not the checker flag, rather the timing beam at the end of the lap first. And across the line goes Damiano Fioravanti, goes quickest, a 1:43.724 as Lazowski gets caught behind. Appeared to be Lorenzo Berau de Villegas. No, it's not. It's the number 7 car of Marcio Basso. And so Lazowski goes second, 1:44.053, but I would suggest he lost a couple of tenths of a second through the final sector. You're certainly not going to miss the Olymp Racing Audi on the dark night, are you? As Lazowski picks the power through turn 3, on towards turn 4. Many of our expected front runners now out on track and circulating. Fioravanti is on another very good lap, up fractionally through the first sector. Richard Gonda is also on a good lap. He has just completed the second sector. And Alain Cadet as well in the DriveX Mercedes is going very, very strongly. He's just posted the fastest middle sector of anybody in the session. So the order at the top of the grid likely to get a bit of a shuffle in a moment's time. Here comes Qualy then. Outright race winner, of course, at the Hungaroring. Runs a little bit wide, heading into the final turn. He was fractionally up. He may have lost it a little bit through the last corner. Across the line he comes. In fact, he only goes 5th. Richard Gondra, ahead of him on the road, has gone up into 4th place. As we await Damiano Fioravanti, who comes past us now and goes quicker still, a 1 minute 43.671. So it is Fioravanti from Lizowski, then Rick Breukers, Richard Gondra in 4th, Alain Qualy 5th, Jerome Mullin 6th, Michael Mack in 9th, and Andres Saravia currently in 12th place. So we follow Alain Qualy there or thereabouts through the first sector. The way it's all shuffled out, it's about 0.4 of a second off pole position at the moment, pursuing Richard Gonda. Gonda not having such a good first sector. So we go in car with Andres Saravia, who has re-emerged on track, and this an outlap for Saravia, so he doesn't need to. We're not expecting him to push too hard just at the moment. Qualy, who we were watching, has just posted the fastest middle sector of the session. I'm not sure it's going to quite find in the 0.4 or thereabouts that he needs to be. He's on maximum attack. Just another 0.07 of a second or so that he needs through the final sector. Again, he's out over the sausage curb. Car thunders its way over the line, and Qualy goes 4th, a 1 minute 44 rather, 0.103. So still 0.4 adrift of the mark set by Damiano Fioravanti. As Tom Onslow-Cole, another driver on a mission, and this has all the makings of being a very good lap here for Tom Onslow-Cole in the SPS Automotive Mercedes. He is up on pole position by just shy of 0.3 of a second through the first 2 sectors. Onslow-Cole, Van Pierberg, again, outright race winners this year. Superb home victory at Silverstone. Now, can Onslow-Cole pick this one, put it to pole position? Yes, he can, at 1 minute 43.4. So Onslow-Cole, 2.26 of a second up on Damiano Fioravanti. Onslow-Cole has actually got a reasonably clear track here for another crack at it. Meanwhile, Fabrizio Cristani, another driver on a good lap, as is Michael Mack, and the time's now really starting to cascade down. The grid being shuffled a little bit. One of the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris ahead of Onslow-Cole. I suspect that's probably Dominic Schwager. Now here is Cristani, who was fastest of anybody through Sector 1. Through Sector 2, it's Cristani's best of the session, and it's going to be a very good lap this for Fabrizio Cristani. As Michael Mack goes 3rd, a 1 minute 44.020. So Michael Mack doing what he needs to do at this stage of the session. Uniquely, of course, in the championship runners, Mack could take the championship this afternoon if he is more than 15 points clear of Saravia and Raider at the checkered flag. So cross line then for Fabrizio Cristani, who goes 2nd, a 1 minute 43.496. So 0.09 of a second adrift of Onslow-Cole. It's Onslow-Cole, Cristani and Fioravanti, who are all some way clear of the rest of the field at the moment. Michael Mack, headlights ablaze, 4th overall for Mack. And Onslow-Cole posts slightly improved time, 1 minute 43.404. That was last lap, rather he's coming to the end of this lap. It was purple sectors through the first 2 sectors. He lost about 4 seconds through the final sector, caught behind Marcio Basso. No, he wasn't, it was Lorenzo Berra de Viega. So he lines up for another run at it. And this very, very close. The top 21 cars separated by just 1.8 seconds. And the order shuffling pretty much every time somebody crosses the line. David Prell goes 12th, Phil Keen's up into 11th. Meanwhile, that's Stefano Constantini pushing a little bit too hard into the gravel trap. Fortunately able to get going. Meanwhile, Alex West into heavy braking zone. Around he goes. The rear of the car kicks away from him. He's far from alone in having had adventures there. Andrei Lewandowski does so as well. But Lewandowski has just taken over pole position in the AM class as we rejoin Mikkel Mack. Last lap he didn't improve, and in fact has now been pipped by Rick Breukers, who's moved up into 4th place. Andres Saravia, meanwhile, is down in 17th place in the Teo Marti Motorsport BMW. So Saravia is in need of an improvement. 1.5 seconds adrift to pole position. They are incredibly evenly matched. And just 3 minutes to go. Fiorvanti into the pits. He's done all he can. Richard Gonda likewise. Mikkel Mack doesn't look like he's on a flying lap as he shoes Gozia Red. That's into the second sector, and Mack well out of it as Rick Breukers comes through to complete another lap and doesn't improve. 1 minute 47.7 for Breukers, so he wasn't quite there either. In fact, inside the top 10 at the moment, there's no green sectors shown. So has the order rather settled down? Christian Hahn pushing a little bit too hard through turn 8. Rejoins, scatters gravel everywhere. That is the AM class pole sitter now, Manuel da Costa in the sporty new Mercedes, 23rd overall. It's a good battle in the AM class pole position as well. The overall pole position is a pro-AM car in the hands of Onslow Cole. The same for Cristani, his championship rival, alongside him, with then the first all-pro lineup, Damiano Fiorvanti in 3rd position. Less than a lap time in the session now. Where are the improvements going to come from? Possibly Rick Breukers. He is up on his previous best through the first 2 sectors. He needs to find just 1.5 tenths of a second to overhaul Damiano Fiorvanti. Needs to find 4 tenths of a second overall to get onto pole position. That feels like it's going to be a slightly sterner test. Breukers picks his way through the chicane, accelerates out of the final turn. Across the line then for Breukers, and he doesn't quite improve in the event. 1 minute 43.9, so he remains in 4th position. Mikkel Mack behind him in 5th, also not improving on this lap. And Andres Saravia in 17th, not improving either. So a big ask for the Teo Marti Motorsport pairing in the race later on. Jerome Mull, another championship contender, he is currently in 10th position. So it is slightly advantage Mikkel Mack in car with Andres Saravia now. And this, the last roll of the dice for Saravia, but he's not up through the first 2 sectors. The checker flag comes out. I don't think we're going to see much in the way of improvements either. We've got a car off at turn 5, and it is the Winwood Racing Mercedes, Portiero Motorsport Mercedes, rather, Philip Deans. The indicator from the timing screen, we can't quite see the turn from our commentary position, is that Deans, yeah, he is stuck there. So that has rather settled the order. And an intriguing qualifying session where we've got a lot of very, very quick cars, possibly slightly out of position. Alan Kader also having a moment late on in the session, picking his way through the gravel trap, and clearly still very greasy offline. We've seen lots of drivers including, of course, Andrea Montoni, brought out the red flag, hitting trouble. This is Christian Hahn. So it's possibly Hahn who saw the rear of, and not Cadet. Turn 4, I think it was. Pushing to the limit, a little bit beyond it. So he's going to be pole position for Tom Onslow-Cole. Alongside him on the front row of the grid, Fabrizio Crestani, with then row 2, Damiano Fioravanti and Rick Breukers. Championship leader Mikel Mack to start from 5th, ahead of Mateusz Lazowski. Alan Kader in 7th from Richard Gonda. As Indy Doncic, one of the early pace setters, heads to the pits. Here's then a look at that classification. It's an all Pro-Am front row, and the 2 drivers really in the mix of the Pro-Am Championship, Onslow-Cole and Crestani. Fioravanti and Breukers a very strong second row, with Mikel Mack then the championship leader in 5th, alongside Mateusz Lazowski. Alan Cadet, Richard Gonda on row 4 from Bradley Ellis and Jerome Mull. So he and venturing in the events really to go their way to keep their championship hopes alive into tomorrow. Phil Keane and David Perel, an incredibly rapid 6th row from Indy Doncic and Dominic Schwager. Toby Sowry in 15th. Andres Saravia then to start from 16th place. He did find a very, very late improvement, but still a lot of work ahead for he and Fran Rueda. Marco Ciocci 17th alongside Andrea Montoni, who brought out the red flag. Manuel da Costa then AM class, or rather Stefano Constantini AM class pole position. Manuel da Costa 2nd in the AM class from Andres Lewandowski. Charles Finelli completes the top 30. So we will be back this afternoon at around 3:30 for the penultimate race of the International GT Open season. Until then, it's goodbye from Barcelona.